Dishes is your channel for often plant-based and always yummy, nutritious, and delicious dishes. Today, I will make a sweet treat for you. It's a chocolate babka, but I will bake it just the way you do cinnamon rolls in a muffin tray. So it's a bit of a challenge to veganize the babka dough because it's a rich, buttery brioche dough which uses quite a few eggs, but we will try anyway, so keep your fingers crossed. First, I will show you how to make the dough. The dough has to rest overnight or about 10 to 12 hours, so it's early in the morning, and with some luck we will have some delicious, sweet, crispy, chocolatey babka rolls for dessert tonight. First, starting with the wet ingredients. I know it's not necessary, but I still like to bloom my active dry yeast in water that I warm in my Thermomix. So 1 sachet of active dry yeast. And I usually add the whole amount of liquid, 300 milliliters of plant milk, rice in this case, I'm preparing this dough early in the morning because I forgot to make it at night. It should rest overnight, but it might as well rest 10 hours during the day. So a bit too much. Now I just set it on 37 degrees Celsius for about 2.5 minutes and give it a slow swirl. Can already add a bit of sugar, but it's not necessary with the dry yeast. Let's go on the rest of the ingredients. Now, mind you, I have veganized this from my regular babka recipe. I think it's really challenging to reinvent a brioche dough that basically thrives on eggs and butter. But, well, let's give this a go and see how it turns out. Again, it's a creative process and we don't know what the result's going to be like. Adding some sugar now, 80 grams. Already used 5 earlier, so 75. Pinch of salt. Now, I like to use rum in my babka, especially since this is a vegan babka. It tends to taste a bit more bland with no eggs in it and no butter. So this rum is not even a tablespoonful, so I'm going to add a bit of rum aroma out of rum. All right. Now, some oil, rapeseed oil, and the vegan butter. It's about 75 grams, altogether about 150 grams of fat. And now some flour, about 530 grams. I'm using spelt flour just to make my conscience feel a little bit better. Yeah, a few more minerals are in there, but I think the dough usually turns out better if you use white bread flour. So 530 grams. You know, the healthier the flour is, the thicker the consistency gets. It's a bit more dense that way. Takes up more liquid. Kneading everything. Dough is finished kneading. It's a very moist dough, and I can assure you, it smells pretty much like the original. Let's give this baby a rest for about 10 hours and see you then. So, excuse the background noises. Turn this down a bit. I have some other projects cooking right over there. For the filling, it calls for 120 grams of butter, of vegan butter, and 180 grams of dark chocolate, as well as 42 grams of cocoa and some powdered sugar. Now, I found this to be a bit dense in the past, too dry to spread on the tender dough. So I'm going without the sugar now also, to save some sugar. And if I'm not satisfied with the consistency or the sweetness, I can still adjust it. So let's melt everything together. Actually, oh yeah, I have this idea. I'm going to add some coffee powder, which really brings out the chocolate flavor, and a bit of cinnamon. I've said this before, so especially with the vegan dough, you really want to make sure it's not bland. It has no taste of its own from eggs or butter, so you definitely want to give it that extra spice. Some ground pulverized instant coffee and some cinnamon and some cocoa going in later as it melts. It's all coming together now. The smell is fantastic from the coffee and the cinnamon and the chocolate. I've added all of the cocoa powder. The consistency is very nice. I'm going to let it cool down now. Thank God we have minus 10 degrees Celsius in Bavaria right now. This is really helpful. And it's nighttime. Finally time to roll out the dough. It's a very, very delicate dough. I actually think we will have to add a bit of flour. This is going to be a huge roll. Let's see. Yeah, it needs more flour. A very, very soft dough because it has a lot of liquid in there and also fat. So let's give this a roll. So there was so much dough that I had some left over that I cut off. Actually, I think I'm going to make a few more with chocolate and walnuts or pecans. That is very, very yummy. Just my son has a nut allergy. That's why I'm keeping those nut-free. Okay, now it's time to spread on the chocolate. I will save a little bit for the leftover dough. Now it's still warm, so you have to handle this dough pretty quickly because it's very soft. Otherwise, you can just pop it out into the cold. I thought about doing that, to just put it out freezing cold for a few minutes, and then it would be super easy to roll. I hate it when people say, oh, pop this in the refrigerator, pop this in the freezer. Who has room in the freezer for a whole cake or for a piece of dough that large? I mean, come on. My freezer is filled with goodness. Oh, look at that. So I didn't add any sugar. It was sweet enough for me, but that's a personal preference. It's easier to spread if you don't add sugar. Okay, now I will start rolling the dough. Hopefully I put enough flour underneath so we won't have any bad surprises. It's normal that the dough is not really holding its shape, and it gets warmer and softer as you go. That's why I'm actually making these rolls today, because making babka is a big mess if you have to braid it. And before you braid it, you definitely need to freeze it, otherwise it's not going to work. At least I found that out for myself. Okay, now this is my roll. I don't know if you can see it. And I'm going to actually pop it out there in the freezing cold, because that way it will be so much easier to slice. Be right back. Now, just to show you the babka technique, I will do a miniature one for you with the leftover dough and chocolate. Just chopped some walnuts in the Thermomix. Putting on the nuts. Rolling it up, and then I will have to freeze it outside for a bit, otherwise it gets really messy when slicing the roll in half. Alright, I've airlifted it back into the kitchen in its silicone mat, and now is my favorite part, slicing and putting those babka rolls in the oven. Let's see how many we will get out of it. Marking the middle. So I'm using silicone muffin tin to put them in, just like that. After I slice them, I will have to let them rest again, rise, proof as you say in English. Okay, let's do. See that? So now that they're half frozen, they're super easy to slice. If I hadn't done that, I would catch hell right now trying to keep them in shape. I don't know how I would do this in the middle of the summer, but let's not worry about that now. So as you can see, that's the way it looks. Now, as promised, the real babka technique, you take your roll. This one is pretty cold. You make sure the seam is sealed tightly. Let's pinch it a few more times. And then you want to slice down the middle, but you keep it together at the beginning, like that. See that? And now you can begin braiding just simply by putting one on top of the other. Then you can get your chocolate lines out, just about like that. I haven't really perfected this technique, but I think you get the idea. And this is going in here, together with the rest of the dough that was left over. So if you want to keep this all in the muffin tin, basically, you will get about 18 muffins out of it. Two big ones. And now they have to rest again and then go in the oven, and then they will get a nice glaze. Usually it's a sugar syrup, but I'm going with some maple syrup this time. It's the moment of truth. I've pulled the babka rolls out of the oven. They're super hot, and the trick is to coat them with syrup or maple syrup the minute they come out of the oven. So while they're still sizzling hot, brush them so they soak up the syrup. And here we are, the final moment, taste testing of the vegan babka rolls. My son is out there hovering over me. When can I have some, Mom? Hurry up. So I cut some of the original babka. It's really hot, so you can see it. Delicious, very soft, chocolatey, filled to the rim. It's too hot for me to bite into, but close. Even speaking German now, it's so good. All right, I'm gonna bite into it. Shouldn't speak with a full mouth. I have to cherish the moment. Yes, this definitely is as good as the original. Cross my heart. I am not a fan of a lot of vegan baking. Trust me, this is good. Try it at home, vegan, not vegan, just do it. See you next time on Vegelicious. Stay safe. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.